Welcome to Behind the Shield Hall of Fame edition. Today we get to talk to Kyle Flickinger, former Spartan wrestler. Hello again, everybody. Scott Guys joining you for a Hall of Fame edition of Behind the Shield. Today we get a chance to talk to Kyle, who, when he graduated, owned 114 wins, which was the school record at the time. He's still third with that mark of 114, and he is just one of 5 wrestlers all time to earn 100 career victories. So after this commercial break, Kyle Flickinger.
You've probably heard a lot about changes on campus, about how classes will look a little different, or how the dining hall will be set up like it was last year. You may have heard we'll be living with a new normal. But the truth is, at York College of Pennsylvania, normal has never been our thing. If by normal you mean predictable, usual, commonplace, average, that's not us. Our normal is extraordinary, exceptional, remarkable. Our normal is about taking responsibility, thinking of others, and treating people with respect. Here, normal means being compassionate. It means protecting the person next to us to ensure safety and good health for all of us, because we know we're in this together. For us, wearing masks and social distancing aren't really a new normal. They're just another example of what's always been important to us. Joining efforts to find real solutions to achieve our goals, to help our community thrive, and to show that we care. That's not a new normal. That's our normal, and we are grateful that you're part of it. Welcome home, Spartans.
Welcome back to Behind the Shield Hall of Fame episode. We have Kyle Flickinger with us today. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So we'll start out with the question. Let's catch everybody up on what you've been up to since you left YCP.
Well, after I graduated, I worked for about a year and a half in the ER at Harrisburg Hospital. I'm a nurse there, so I did some time in the ER, and then I moved over to OSS down in New York, we're just pretty close to the school, and I know some of the docs there through sports at York and stuff. I knew Dr. Ulmer, Dr. Siguranza, so I started working over there at the hospital where we do total joint replacements and spine surgeries and stuff like that. So I've been there since 2010. And I just took on a new role there as the pre-op PACU coordinator. So I'm kind of a supervisor in my area, just over the last couple months. So, my kids, I have 3 kids now. I have, a little boy, he'll be 9 next month. And I have twin girls that are 6.5. So they're keeping me pretty busy. My son and my daughters, they all 3 play soccer. So right now they're playing soccer. My son wrestles too. So it's chaos. I mean, I coach soccer, I coach wrestling, and it's nonstop going places and doing stuff. And but I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's a lot of fun.
I was gonna say it goes by so fast. Enjoy the heck out of it because it really does. It just zooms by. I mean, I actually can't believe that we're talking about you being in the Hall of Fame already. Because that means you've been out of school long enough to get into the Hall of Fame, which is just, it's kind of crazy. I remember you as a freshman coming on and really starting a great career.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what it's like when you get named to the Hall of Fame. Obviously, it's probably something you don't think about a ton until you get that call. What is that like when you find out that you're going to be in the Athletic Hall of Fame?
Like when I was in school, I really didn't think anything of it. It wasn't even something that wasn't my goal. Obviously at some point when you have a great career, you start to think of that after your career's over. I really didn't think of it much until Dwayne got inducted a few years ago. And I was at his induction ceremony and stuff. And it was kind of cool just to see, my brother-in-law and one of the guys I was coaching with, and see him get in. So it was neat to see all that. And then I started thinking about it, like, what, there probably will come a day where I get to do this too, because I had a pretty good career, and as an All-American, holding the career record for a while, you just start to think about those things. So when I got the letter that I was being inducted, it was kind of like, it's pretty cool. Like, even though I kind of thought maybe someday I would, when you finally do get that letter, it's quite an honor to think like I'm going to be amongst these athletes that are in the Hall of Fame, and not just the athletes, but the wrestlers in general. Just the group of wrestlers that are in the Hall of Fame right now, it's great to be among those greats. It's pretty cool.
There is no doubt. You go through the your college athletic hall of fame, and the wrestlers comprise a large percentage of that. And there's so many good names that have been in it. And for you, it's a family affair. You get a sister-in-law that goes in too, so it's gonna be quite a celebration when we finally
Yeah,
have that ceremony.
yeah, that's probably something that doesn't happen very often. Whether it's relatives or your family or whatever, but to see April being inducted at the same time is pretty neat. And her and I going to college together, graduating the same year, both of us competing on good teams and doing really good for our school is pretty neat. As we were in school and now to think back about it and now being inducted into the Hall of Fame together is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's quite a class, and we talked about it before going on. It's going to be a pretty special night when we finally get to induct everybody, because it is an awesome class.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit looking back. What are some of the things you remember out of your career? Obviously, there's probably moments on the mat. There's probably moments away on the mat. What are some of your favorite memories of being a Spartan?
Just being part of a team that, when you're in high school and you're wrestling with these guys and you're playing sports all through high school, those are your buddies that you grew up with and from when you were 2 or 3 years old. So it's not the same when you get to college and you meet all these new guys from different places and different parts of the country and different states, and they come from different programs and different backgrounds. It's pretty neat to start to meet all these new people, and you start developing different relationships with different people, and it's just pretty cool to see some of these guys where they come from and their backgrounds and stuff. And it's just wrestling in college in general and doing any sport in college is never easy, because you're not just going to wrestle, or you're not going to play a sport. You're there for an education, especially when you're playing a Division III sport. I think Division III sports in general, you really have to love the sport that you're playing, because you're not getting paid to do it like you would be at a Division I school if you had a scholarship. Not that you're getting paid, but you're not, you're there because they want you and they're paying you scholarship money to do your sport. But in Division III, you're there because you love it, and you're really competing because you just truly love the sport. And at the same time, your focus is more on your education, because you're not going to go pro most likely in what you're doing. So, it's just an experience that, like, to get through 4 years of competing at a college level and doing a major that's not easy at your college. It's pretty cool to think at, like, I did it in 4 years, and a lot of people have to take an extra semester or an extra year because it's just their classwork is too much. And but for me to think back and know that I got through those challenges and got through one of the toughest majors I think that your college holds, and I competed for 4 years. I was an All-American. I held the win record and did all those things. It definitely. I'm happy with myself. I think I did as best I could with what I had. So it's definitely it makes me happy to think back about those things.
Talk about the discipline. Obviously, huge discipline to be a really good wrestler. You have to have, all the things that you have to do to be great. And then tie it into what you had to do academically. Like you said, to get done in 4 years. How does that carry over? Does that discipline necessary to be able to be successful in both?
Oh, definitely. I think more than a lot of people, I gave up a lot of the fun, cool things in college, to focus on my education and focus on my athletics. It's really hard to do all of the things that you want to do when you're in college and still do good at the sport you're doing and do good in school. At some point, something's going to fold if you try to party and you try to wrestle and you try to go to school. Something, somewhere along the line it's going to give. And more likely than not, it's going to be your athletics. So I sacrificed all those things. I was not one to try to enjoy Jackson Street. I was not one to try to go out and do those fun things a lot of college kids do. I knew that more importantly, I wanted to go to get a good education, and I wanted to do good in wrestling. So, with discipline and sacrifices, there's a lot of things with wrestlers that you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice a lot of time with your friends. You have to sacrifice a lot of food and things that you want to drink, and going to parties and doing all those things. You really have to sacrifice a lot compared to a lot of other sports. With wrestling and your diet and your exercise and workouts, there's a lot more involved than there are, I think, with a lot of other sports. So, it definitely, it's tough. But when you get through something like that and you go through a sport that is that difficult, and you get through it pretty accomplished, it's, that's what really, I think, sets you up for good future, and teaches you a lot of lessons. I've been told forever that wrestling is a sport that teaches you so much, more than any other sport. And now, like, thinking back about playing soccer and doing other things that I did and watching other kids who went through other sports, you really start to see that, like, as I'm getting older, I really see the discipline and the hard work and the dedication to things like I implement into my daily life, and other things that I'm involved in, that really starts to show.
What was one of the most impactful things about being a student athlete? You talked about sacrifice, you talked about discipline. Are those things that you're able to carry over into your adult life? You talked about seeing that now with your kids, with your son wrestling, instilling that in him. How important is that, those lessons that you learned as a collegiate wrestler, carrying over in the rest of your life?
A lot of it's just like hard work. I realize that you're not going to get things just aren't handed to me. That's just how my life hasn't been easy. It's not like every little thing that I want just comes easily. In sports, like, I'm a little guy. I was always a small guy on the soccer field, and I was a really good soccer player. And same with wrestling. Like, I wasn't completely naturally talented. It just wasn't something that came perfectly easy to me. I had to work really hard for the things that I did, and going to clubs and all these extra workouts and lifting really hard, and just all that stuff. Diet, all that kind of stuff you have to work hard. Like, so I think that's one of the biggest things that I got out of wrestling in general, is just that hard work pays off, and you'll get out of it what you put in. If you slack off at practice, if you slack off in your workouts, it's going to show. And you really start to see that as you're going through your program, and coming in as a freshman. I had a pretty good background. I had a pretty good mindset already. But you start to learn that stuff, and you see other guys and how they go about their training and stuff, and you kind of see the ones that you want to follow and the ones that you may not want to follow. And Dwayne was a perfect example of that, of what hard work truly does get you. And he really kind of showed me and molded me into what I knew I had to do to get to where I wanted to be. He had some struggles early on in his career, and he kind of, when I look at his two sides of his career and how things started for him and how things ended, those are the two paths that you can choose as a college athlete, and especially as a wrestler. I mean, it's pretty laid out. It's easy. And like I said earlier, you at some point, if you choose some of those other options of what you want to do in college and going to parties and doing those cool things and fun things, most likely it's not going to get you where you want to go with your wrestling career. And like I said, Dwayne changed his path and did what he did because he dedicated himself and got himself on that right path. So those are the things that I thought about as I was starting to train, as a freshman and sophomore. And, it just stuck. It just realized that these are the things I need to do, and it works. When it works, you just continue on, and you push through those things.
Yeah, I'm not sure that our wrestlers could have a much better example as a head coach than him. I mean, to see, how hard he worked, and, when he was done working hard, he did it some more, because that was just, and you talk about the sacrifice that has to be made to be great. I think in any pursuit of athletics, if you're not willing to do the extra, it's really, really hard to be great.
Yep, exactly.
I want to look back at your career. Obviously, a ton of highs, a ton of wins. Being an All-American. Is there anything that sticks out in particular? Any accomplishment that you're most proud of, that you look at, and as you look back in your career and like, yeah, that was pretty good. I'm very proud of being able to accomplish that.
Yeah, obviously being an All-American, like, that was something as a sophomore, especially. I almost made the national tournament as a freshman, and I lost in the finals of the championships to make it to nationals to a senior, and I only lost by a few points, and I knew I was right there. I was so close. And that was the kid who ended up being a two-time All-American. He was, I really had no business beating him, but I realized how close I was to being there. And then going out to nationals that year and watching Dwayne wrestle and watching Tim and Jerry and Matt, out at nationals, I knew how close I was, and I knew that there was no doubt that I would be there, whether the next year or the year after, or I would be there for sure. And for me, wrestling in high school, I was a 2-time state qualifier, and thinking about how, I made it there, but I came up short 2 times, and I was so close. And that was one of my big goals in high school, was to be a state medalist, but I just came up just short. I knew that I wasn't going to let that opportunity slip when I got to college. So making it my sophomore year, I think one of my biggest highs was my Metro tournament as a sophomore, beating a returning All-American in the semifinals, and then beating a 2-time qualifier in the finals. It's something that, like, I'll never forget those things. That day, it was awesome. Just 2 big wins to get myself to the tournament, and then I ended up being the outstanding wrestler that year at Metros, and then going out and being an All-American, and just it's something that feeling and like that accomplishment was amazing. I just remember the last couple seconds of the match to be an All-American was incredible. I'm just holding on so tight to try to hold up this leg cutting up. And as soon as the whistle blew, I stood up. I pointed over to Dwayne, and I think Coach Lentz was on the side, and I just screamed and yelled at the top of my lungs, and I could hear my family up in the stands, and my wife, and everybody and not that there were that many people there for York College, but you could hear them. You could hear them over everybody. It's just something that, like, I'll never forget that moment. And I think, even that is a great accomplishment. But aside from that, I think is also winning over 100 matches in college and holding the win record for a couple of years. I didn't win 100 matches in high school. So to do it in college when the competition is way better than it is in high school, knowing that I wrestled 4 straight years as a starter, I really never was not a starter. So that too is quite an accomplishment. You don't have many guys that come in as a freshman and start right off the bat, and then to do the things I did, winning over 20 matches every single year I was there. I think those are some pretty impressive numbers. So
there's no doubt. And you talk about the 100 wins. Our wrestling program's been outstanding for a long time.
Yeah.
There ain't many guys that have done it.
Right.
To win 100 matches, that is almost the gold standard. Your record's since been broken by 2 really good wrestlers.
2 guys that I'm so happy that they did it.
Awesome. 2 guys that are unbelievable. But I think anytime that you have longevity in the sport of wrestling, which is 100 wins, I think that's an impressive thing.
And to do it without, and I think some of that is just luck. I didn't get injured. I never had a period where I was hurt for an extended period of time. I never had skin things that kept me out of matches and tournaments. So I was lucky to do those things and get out of my college career without any injuries. A lot of times that holds a lot of these guys up for half a year or for almost a whole year, or even just a couple big tournaments that they miss because of different things. That really cuts down on the number of matches you can wrestle. So
well, and I think too, part of that is you worked really hard to be in really good shape. And I think sometimes preparation and luck go together, and I think that certainly is the case. I want to ask you, how much fun was it as a freshman to be a part of that team that won the Metros, and we sent a bunch of guys to nationals, had the highest finish ever. When you're a freshman, do you think, oh, it's like this every year? You have this team success and your personal success. How much fun was it to be a part of that?
It was awesome, especially coming in as a freshman. And I came from a pretty good high school program. So, some of these guys don't come from very good programs, and they don't know what it's like to win big matches and to take all these guys to nationals or to states and things like that. So that's my expectation. When I come to college, I expect that this program is going to be top notch. I expect to be a winning team. I expect that we win big matches and send guys to nationals and do all these things. That's my expectation. But when you actually get there and you see the talent that's in the room and the guys that are there, I remember my freshman recruiting class, we had 30 some guys as freshmen. It was the biggest recruiting class that we've had, up until that point. It was a huge class. And the number of guys that came out of that and actually graduated, I think was 2 or 3 that of those 30 that graduated with me. But yeah, the team was awesome. Those guys we all had the same mindset. Everybody was out. We were out to win. we were out to just beat people up and do our job. And, it was awesome. Winning big matches, we did not so great at Bud Whitehill that year as we would have kind of expected. But again, and then we had metros at York, and it was awesome to have all those guys in the gym and win a metro title and do all that kind of stuff. And I don't think I really realized how special that team was until a few years later. You start to think back about how good we really were. I mean, and like I said, I was used to sending a lot of guys to state. We sent 8 guys to states when I was a junior. So for me, it was oh, this is normal. This is how it should be. We send 4 guys to nationals. That's what should happen. But now thinking about it, that's not common. That's not normal to send that number of guys, and how difficult it is to get there. You start to realize how hard it is to do those things as compared to high school. So yeah, I mean, just the group of guys that we had in that room, it was every day at practice, there was somebody, we almost fist fighting, and we were fighting so hard at practice. And I mean, it was intense. Practice rooms were intense. Just the mindset in general, we were an intense group.
We've had a lot of good atmospheres for athletics, but I'm not sure that there was any better than packing in the old Gym B for a dual match with people everywhere. Because I think at that point, especially in the second semester at our home matches, it felt like we knew we had something special. We knew, obviously Dwayne was, everybody wanted to watch Dwayne wrestle, but quickly people realized there's a lot of guys up and down that lineup that are really good and fun to watch. I thought our matches were always, it was a great atmosphere. It was fun. And it was so much fun to be a part of. I want to turn a little bit. You got to coach with Dwayne for a couple years until your kids started getting involved in stuff. What was it like to be able to come back and not only coach your brother-in-law, but you get to be a part of a program that gave you a lot. You were able to give back. How much fun was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I put so much into that program, and it was really great to come back and give back to that program and do as much as I could to try to get all the guys that I'm coaching to be at the point where I was, and to have those same goals that I had. And like I said, I mean, we just talked about 2 of them between Flynn and Greg, and those guys are probably 2 of the best guys to come out of that program, since I was there. And it's just awesome to now try to get those guys to that same level. And again, you see all these guys that come from different programs, different backgrounds, and you get to kind of shape them into what York College wrestling is about now. I mean, they're all coming from different areas. They're all coming from different coaches, and they have different mindsets, but we get them in there and we just kind of mold them into what we want to make them, which is exactly what happened when I was there. I mean, I had a different mindset coming in than I did when I left. So it's just neat to get those guys, and you see their work ethics, and some of them are great, some of them are not so good, but you try to get them to where they need to be. And once they start accomplishing those things, it's like nothing else. I mean, getting to do those things myself was really cool, and it was awesome. But to see those guys that I'm now coaching to get to that point, probably one of the best moments in my coaching career was when Ryan Flynn became an All-American. A kid that made nationals 2 times before that and came up just short. A kid that I worked with so much at practice, and just a kid that in general had worked so hard to get to where he was. And kind of, I really look at him and I see a lot of myself in him, because he worked really hard. He did good in high school, but came up short at states, and was kind of in the same position as me when he came in as a freshman. He was a tough freshman, and we were ready for him to start. And he did. He contributed right away. And we just built him right into that same kind of mindset. It was just really cool to see him grow. And he's a super smart kid, and he just put so much into that program. It was really good. But the moment he became an All-American, it was like I was becoming an All-American again. I mean, it was like the same feeling, the same excitement. And of course, Flynn tore my ACL, and that was my one big injury that I've never had in college. But he did it for me, So he did that, and I'll always remember. I mean, he's just a good kid.
Well, and those 2 guys are going to be joining you in the Hall of Fame when their time comes. They are.
It's going to be an honor to see them too. It'll be an honor to see those guys get in, and there's going to be a few more before them, and a few after that, of course. And it's just neat. Hopefully, in my 10 years that I've been coaching and helping out at York, I hope to see at least 10 guys get into the Hall of Fame from my time there. So it'll be pretty cool.
No, I think it's such an accomplishment, one, to get into the Hall of Fame, and then get to be part of the coaching staff that recruits guys and gets into the Hall of Fame, and it's an awesome thing to watch. Well, Flick, thanks so much for joining us. It's great to see you. I can't wait to see you in person, and hopefully this second semester we'll have some wrestling matches to get to attend. Hopefully, and I'm sure you'll stay busy with your kids. But we want to thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Scott.
Hey, thanks.
At York College, we are proud of the fact that we have over 30 cultures and 30 countries represented among our campus community. We not only are proud of that fact, we celebrate the unique perspective and differences that each and every person on this campus brings to us. So on behalf of all of us at York College, I want you to know that you are welcomed here.
Tu eres bienvenido aquí. Vous êtes bien reçu ici. You're very welcome here.
You are welcome here.
You are welcome here.
Você está bem-vindo aqui.
You are welcome here.
You are welcome here. You are welcome here. You're welcome here.
معكم رقية آل الشيخ من كلية يورك في بنسلفانيا. أنتم مرحب بكم هنا. We are welcome.
From day one at York College of Pennsylvania, you are welcome here.
That was great to get a chance to catch up with Flick, and certainly he's doing great. His 3 kids keeping him busy, and we miss seeing him on the Spartan sideline, but certainly happy that he is able to coach his kids as they pursue their athletic dreams, much like he did. So we'll be back with another episode of Behind the Shield, the Hall of Fame edition, next week, as we will get a chance to talk to Ryan Pop. So until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and go Spartans.